Hello. So yeah, I deleted everything, and this video will probably be deleted too. Uh, um, there are many things going on at the moment that are big and important and serious, like sort of Trump essentially now being Hitler in his bunker, being like, holy shit, what's happening with the Russians? And oh my god, is the West finally turning on me? Like the fact that the caring about sexual assault claims is now a craze that is going around. People are believing women and believing claims of sexual assault and harassment, and it's like it feels like seeing an alcoholic question, should I really be drinking? Like, it's, nothing is gonna change yet, but it's good to see that the person with a problem is starting to realize they have a problem. It's just that the person is Western society and the media in general realizing that monsters exist, and for too long we've been letting them get away with things. But I'm not. I suppose it's kind of an odd thing to be like, I'm making a video saying I'm alive entirely to say, look, this is what happens. This is what happens when I am not busy sparring with trolls and feeling angsty and broody about, oh no, I annoyed people I actually care about who aren't trolls and Nazis, is that my glasses from Specsavers, and I'm going to mention Specsavers specifically because I don't like them. But I have to go to them because poor. And glasses are expensive. But basically my frames, they just snapped. I was just putting on my headphones, I was going out for a walk, and the frame just ping broke and my lens fell out onto the floor. And honestly, as someone who is short-sighted, who like my natural sort of ability to see clearly extends to about here, right? Without glasses. That was very scary, and having to tape my glasses together, and part of the other issue I have with Specsavers is the fact that at the best of times, their anti-glare coating makes it that basically everything is attracted to the glasses, so that they get scummy and dirty and gritty and grimy, and it's like I have this thing like an inch from my eyeball, if that, right? And it's perpetually covered in muck and I can't see through it, and then it's just like, oh yeah, and in order to keep my glasses held together whilst I wait for them to order in a new pair of frames, I have to have tape over the lens, which is just, 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 yeah, I would to peel off the tape and clean the lens and then try and do a better job, but I know I wouldn't be able to do a better job because I wouldn't be able to see. That's the whole problem. Glasses are expensive. I can't afford a whole other set of glasses to have for the one eventuality of like something bad happens to the glasses. Like, so that's not good. And also, as you might be able to tell, I've got the stinking flu. And I'm 90% certain I've got the stinking flu. because basically, my dear mother, um, sort of came home one day and said, I think I've got the flu. I think I've gone and been diagnosed by a doctor as having the flu. And then she promptly took all of the sort of anti-cold and flu drugs from the house and fucked off to her boyfriend's. And it's just like, okay, so I have now been enduring the flu with nothing. I mean, fortunately, like, I have gotten pain meds now, and I've got my strepsils and my Lemsip, but it's still just death. I'm feeling like death. Uh, so little sleep, so very little sleep. Um, Not good. The flu is the worst. Get vaccinations. Get vaccinations. Because I'm telling you now, right, as someone who has got the autism and the flu right now, autism is better than the flu. And the flu is fucking mild. Right? The flu is something mild that people regularly survive, right? Compared to all of the other things. Yeah, we could talk about the fucking science of how the MMR scare is bullshit, right? But when it comes down to it, if you are someone who genuinely believes that MMR causes autism, that vaccines cause autism, what you are doing is weighing up someone not wanting to go out and talk to people versus someone being in hideous fucking pain and looking and feeling disgusting. And guys, I don't know if you know this, but having hideous green hunks of snot coming out of your face, that's a damn sight more of a hindrance to socializing than not being able to make eye contact. Right? And I say that as someone with rhinitis. So even when I don't have the flu, I have hideous green hunks of snot coming out of my face. Right? This is one of those occasions where I can play in the Martyr Olympics because fucker, I've got these things. I have been thrice struck by the fucking demon of hell. Not to suggest that people with, rhinitis and autism, or indeed the flu, have actually been cursed by the devil. That would be way too badass. Um, we've just been cursed with mild annoyances that are made so much worse because society's just intolerant as fuck. Like seriously, it's like Leo Kanner founded autism, but he was a racist eugenicist who blamed the parents. Hans Asperger came up with a better theory of autism and the autistic spectrum. Worked for the Nazis. and Lobas, he came up with a way to actually help people with autism maybe fit in better to society, and then he went on to try and electrocute the gay and the trans out of children, and it's just neurotypical normal people. You guys are just the worst. The worst. The worst. But I feel pretty the worst right now. And it also doesn't help that because it's winter, I've decided not to shave. It's not no shave November. It's just like it's winter. It's fucking cold. I want to have something on my face to protect myself. It's like I always got cold during the winter because, well, what could I have on my face? And it's like now I have a beard, I have a moustache, I have sideburns, I am fine. And then I get a fucking flu, despite actually not going out as much. fucking joy. But I have been writing. And I have finished the first story of the new continuity and the new book collection. And that first story is called Lovehurst, or at least that's the working title. And actually, I'm feeling pretty fucking proud of it. I mean, it's arguably an incredibly terrible and offensive piece of fanfic, albeit actually of fiction in this case. I feel like writing terrible fanfic is not so bad when you're writing it about, fiction. Right? There's the hell of a world of difference between like writing a terrible fanfic about Elon Musk leading the founding of the colony of Mars and writing a terrible fanfic about, Professor Challenger leading the colonization of Mars, right? It makes a difference. But yeah, I have finished a story that was 47,000 words, and I am now like 12,000 words into the second story, and I really want to continue, but I have flu brain, and actually it's the flu brain, which is why I will make a video, because the videos are shit, but right now I'm shit, so that's appropriate. Although I am very much aware that kind of at the moment, presumably because essentially their guy, like literally his presidential campaign was run on him saying that he grabbed women by the pussy. I'm presuming that maybe, the Trump supporters who are still vehemently stalking me may sort of go, no, you, we, there, craze of there, fuck you. I don't even have the level of fucks to articulate properly the point I'm getting across here, but it's just like, I know I'm sticking my head above the parapet, and I know that even if people don't have any ammunition, they're gonna want to throw whatever they have, because it's the thing! The thing! We defeated him, but he's back with the flu, and how dare he? Oh, don't worry. I'm not back. This isn't me back. This is me basically saying to my people, I'm sorry. I'm ill as fuck. And there will be a delay in the writing because I have flu brain. And I want to write. I have scenes I want to write. I'm like some scenes in my fiction are like me as the cis white male saying I want to be really socially progressive here, so I have to be in a very particular mindset, and I have to be, it's all very careful and grim, and like I have to do this properly, and this is hard work, but it's something noble and virtuous, and I have to do it. And some scenes are less, I suppose, socially progressive, but are equally like, this is a very angsty scene to write, which is very important, but it's not particularly fun. This is very much one of those fun scenes that like I've got a scene that I really want to write because it's just basically me writing a scene about a submissive woman being fucking adorable, and I want to write it because, well, I'm a fucking autistic virgin with Kalman syndrome, who is stuck in the house in the middle of fucking nowhere, being stalked by fucking Nazis who are still like, this guy is the best thing since sliced bread, we must keep stalking him. We must keep milking him for comedy, despite the fact that, the internet exists and we could have access to anything. How do you guys still give a fuck about who I am, right? Many a True Nerd exists, School of Movies exists, Django Conroy, Etho, Zisto, Vex, so many better people than me, and they make content regularly that's like scripted and planned and well written and got good visuals and good editing, and you're like, no, we must stalk this guy who does long unedited videos for reasons. Because also clearly I am such an utter fucking threat to Donald Trump right now. Clearly, right? Me in fucking England with flu. You know, in the middle of writing some very terrible fiction. Clearly I, right now, am a massive threat to the white supremacist cause. Like, clearly you need to be so fucking on the defensive because, oh, guys, watch out. Alexander Gordon Jahanic, he's making videos again. He's going to destroy us. I mean, all right, you know, there's the whole fucking Mueller investigation and the fact that, you know, this is a guy who literally ran his campaign on grab them by the pussy, and now people care about that sort of thing. You know, let's not worry about, you know, any of that. Let's focus on the fact that this pathetic idiot in the middle of fucking nowhere with a fucking flu brain is going, hello, I'm not quite dead. Although I probably wish I were, because the flu is awful. Yeah, don't try to laugh when you've got the flu. Anyway. I haven't slept properly in about 3 days. So, yeah. Times are weird. But my writing is going well. And it does not, in fact, impinge on anyone whatsoever. There are trans characters and non-binary characters who are not insulted or offended because basically, like, they exist to be badass in other ways, right? Like, I've got a half elf professor who is a trans woman, but essentially, like, her whole thing is that, you know, she was this badass empress of the United Elven Hedonists, but, you know, leading revolutions against sort of neoliberal people doesn't generally tend to go well. And so now she's working as a professor, and, you know, meanwhile you've got the Grand Pantheon. Like, I've basically rebooted this as, like, what if I did Game of Thrones on the Discworld, but in the world of the Farshnook, with the Pantheon of the Farshnook, in a way that mirrors our real world, with sci-fi things off the side. Like, literally, the first story is basically fantasies. Is fantasy Discworld, Hannibal, Brian Fuller's Hannibal TV series, except with women instead of men, and a different kind of character arc for the relationship. And then the second one is kind of basically alien abduction, and, like, let's have the geopolitics of this entirely separate alien race that's kind of, and their great sci-fi space empire that's off over here somewhere. And I'm loving that I'm getting to do this. Like, I'm not rebooting the continuity has been so good for me as a writer, because it's like, I know what I'm fucking doing now, right? When I started writing, I didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing. I was making it up as I went along. I was like, I have a guy. His name is the Farshnook, and he's important because I'm writing him, so things are gonna happen, and he's gonna survive them. So he's gonna be important, and he's got all these names. And then it was like, okay, we've got the Pantheon, we've got this guy, we've got that guy, we've got this person, we've got that person, and now I get to start from day one and say, this is what it is. And like, I get to just establish casually that, yeah, there are elves and goblins and orcs and ogres and I can discuss this. Like, I can have my cake and eat it too, in the sense of like, I am going to do a sort of, I mean, I'm going to be very careful about this because, you know, whiter than white English guy who hasn't fucking left white people places, right? But I am going to try very carefully to do essentially a Black Lives Matter story about having a black character going around, essentially doing a sort of World War Z style, meaning the book here, World War Z style, you know, interviewing of people affected by the different things, essentially interviewing how, you know, black people of different races are being persecuted. Like, because, I mean, apart from anything else, this is something we see in fantasy. You know, we see in fantasy and sci-fi. I mean, it's like this joke that, like, this stand-up comedian, I'm brutally sorry that I don't know their name, because it's a thing that I saw on Tumblr, and kind of that's kind of the way my life has been at the moment. So I moved from Facebook to Tumblr, and I haven't looked back since. And but there was this thing about how apparently, like, this lovely Indian woman wanted to be cast in The Hobbit as a hobbit, and she was told, "Oh no, hobbits are white. Sorry." And it's like, but you've got fucking dragons and spiders and goblins and orcs and trolls and you can't have a fucking Indian fucking halfling? Fucking wrong with you? And so, like, I kind of, you know, and the fact that, you know, essentially, because the first story is, you know, basically Hannibal, the fancy lesbian equivalent, um, with Amy Pond in the Hannibal role. because fuck it, right? But like essentially the Jack Crawford character is essentially a dark skinned ogre. And it's like that's just a casual thing that's there because it's like, you know, like it's not a thing. It's not we're going to explore how this affects him through the things of the thing, because like, no, he's there because he's the guy who is in charge of this unit investigating serial killers. You know, he's there to do a job. He's not there to be the guy representing his race. He's not there to be the guy representing people of his skin color. He's there to be the guy who's got things to do. But like, I will be able to sort of explore like how does racism it like affect dwarves and halflings and elves and orcs and ogres and goblins, right? Because like it, I mean, apart from anything else, we see how racism is nuanced in the real world. Like yes, white people in Western society are privileged over people who aren't white in Western society. But there is still racism and bigotry within that. There is still the way that the Irish are treated horribly by people. There is still the way that, you know, different types of Irish people will treat other different types of Irish people horribly, depending on where they grew up and what kind of, you know, religion they maybe do or don't follow. You know, same thing with Scotland, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, there are all these ways in which people are shitty to each other that don't make any sense and that we don't really shine a light on because we can only really tackle one issue at a time. And it's like, we don't really have time to get into the weeds of like, yes, you can be a white Irish person who is racially prejudiced against because you are Irish and still have white privilege for being white. And like, we don't have the energy in the space in the discourse to recognize that. I mean, I am, cis white male, English middle class southerner, like, yeah, I'm autistic. I'm bisexual. I've got Kalman syndrome and rhinitis and sleep apnea and, oh god, growth hormone deficiencies and all kinds of other things. But I am, as far as kind of the demographics that people care about go, I am privileged privilegio. I mean, I'm not quite Donald Trump levels, but I'm very much aware that yeah, I am Arthur Dent, and the world is everyone who is not Arthur Dent, and that means that I am kind of close to the top of the privilege tower, and so in a weird way that means that I can write about this from a weirdly fucking objective point of view, in the sense of like, I'm fucking ignorant about everything. Right? Like, so I can sort of bring up the questions and sort of like have characters be like, so these are a thing like that's happening, and kind of, hopefully if I'm careful, I can be like, these are characters expressing their thoughts and opinions on a complex situation that they don't know everything about, and that clearly, like, the author doesn't know everything about. But the important thing is to note that this isn't just, this isn't fucking Harry Potter, where, like, yes, the house elves are all slaves, but it's okay because they like it, like, we're not gonna get into that. I mean, okay, it's my writing, and so yes, there are an awful lot of submissive women who are literally owned, and it's okay because they like it, except, like, it's not, right? It's very much like, no, this is wrong, this is fucked up, but, they like it, and, like, they get to decide ultimately. It's like, that's my point of view and perspective, is kind of like, you don't get to decide if someone is offended. You can absolutely point out if someone is doing something offensive, but ultimately it's down to the person being offended as to whether they are offended by that. And, like, you can be a person who recognizes that what someone is doing to you is wrong because it is offensive objectively in this and that and the other way, and you can decide, yes, these things are true, but these things are also true, and I like these, and I am willing to overlook these because I like these. Like humans can do that, right? We are capable of recognizing bad things exist, but good things also exist, and I like the good things, and maybe I can ignore the bad things, or put up with the bad things, or still be critical about the bad things, and still want the bad things to change, but still enjoy the good things anyway. And, like, I'm trying very hard to have my cake and eat it. And maybe this is terrible, but what I am trying to do now is not, this isn't me doing this writing in the way that I used to, in the sense that, yes, I am writing stories based around a concept and characters and exploring those characters and concepts. but I am doing it with a view, like, part of the reason I'm doing it as a book of stories is that essentially this is me doing like the Netflix model of like, I'm going to release a series as one thing for you to binge, right? And I am writing the episodes, the individual stories within that series, within that book. And because I am writing them in one go, I can go back and tie them up all together and I can make sure things connect. And at the same time, I am also working on, like, I mean, it's stalled because flu, but I am working on essentially doing a sort of director's commentary style thing of like, so these are my thoughts and opinions on having written this thing, right? So the idea is that essentially I'm not just writing a thing because I want to and then putting it out there in isolation and then coming along, you know, months, years later saying, and I've got another thing that follows up to it and just leaving it there, right? I am saying, here are things that are connected. They are supposed to be one story. Like, well, they are supposed to be multiple stories that tell an overall world building story. And here are my thoughts and opinions. Now go away and you can criticize with it. Like I did a lot of bad things about the the fucking fanfic that kind of essentially was the the volcano that led to the earthquakes, which eventually destroyed the continuity of the original run. Um, I did a lot of bad things with it, but I think one of the lessons that I have taken away from it is that essentially that story was in many ways a big story lore-wise in that it was important to like to it was important to this series and that series and that series, and none of the context was there. What there was context for was this person in reality and this other person who has the same name as your username in reality. So therefore, what does it say about these two real people we know, right? And so instead of the story being, you know, how do the events of, you know, the Great Farshnook and Green Nine Nothing and William Dixon Wright tie into the founding of the United Civilizations of the multiverse, and how does that then go on to affect the Great Septagonoid War and all of this stuff? It became, but what does Alex Jahanic think of Laura K. Buzz? And how do we think about this in terms of them as people in the real world, when, like, that wasn't the point at all. Right? Like, at a certain point, like, it is fiction and yeah, you can tell I'm really just, this is back to the bad old days of I don't care, I'm going to leave the sneezing in. And so kind of, well, what, instead of just dumping a story out there on its own that's tying into all of this other stuff and leaving it there and saying, well, people will be smart enough to figure it out, I am putting it out there as one thing in context with, and this is why I made the references that I made. This is what the references mean. So that at the least, right, if people are going to go away and do their discourse, right? They know everything that's going on there, right? It's like, um, it's the difference between watching The Phantom Menace on its own and watching it in context with the other things, like with the other films. Because for me, The Phantom Menace worked as a film because I had just watched 3 films of not so great effects, of not so great storytelling, of very one note da 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 da. So when The Phantom Menace came along, I was like, okay, we've got a subplot, we've got character arcs, like like I could do a point-by-point criticism of the Mr. Plinkett review of The Phantom Menace if it didn't make me physically sick with some of the gruey stuff that goes on in that story. Because, like, I mean, one of the points that he does bring up that I noted was the whole, oh, but who can tell me who the characters of Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi are? Who knows? It's like, fucker, Qui-Gon Jinn has an arc. Obi-Wan Kenobi has a fucking arc. Anakin Skywalker in that fucking first film has a fucking arc. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, like, these guys don't have arcs. These guys don't change. Like, Luke's like, oh, hey, old guy, you've got a cool sword, and you're in a cult. Cool. And you hate the Empire. I hate the Empire. Yeah, let's go rescue the princess. She looks hot. That's totally not all creepy later. And, Han Solo, like, yeah, his whole thing is that, well, I'm a little bit dodgy, but I'm also kind of a good guy. Yeah, that's not a character arc. That's, I mean, I get it. It's the old style of storytelling. It's like, you have, this is, Biff one-liner, and his quiff of awesome going in to bring justice and liberation to the colonies, right? He doesn't have a character arc because he's not supposed to have a character arc, because he's just supposed to be the guy with the powers to go in there and give the speeches, right? Like, it wasn't that kind of storytelling back then. But with The Phantom Menace, they've got arcs. They've got arcs, they've got subplots, they've got allegories, and it's, like, amazing. But if what you want is more of the fucking same, you look at that and you're going, but it's not the same. But equally, I think that if I had seen The Phantom Menace without having seen the first 3 original films, I would have looked at it and I would have seen, oh, it's racist. Oh, it is fucking sexist. Oh, it's got all of these fucking problems, and oh my god, the dialogue, and, like, you need the context of the Sand People from Naboo. You need the context of fucking Ewoks. You need the context of Han being a melodramatic, whiny puppy in Empire Strikes Back. You need fucking Slave Leia in order for The Phantom Menace to make sense. In terms of, like, I can understand and look past the fact that, yeah, George Lucas has problems. We know this. And I suppose maybe the fact that I am defending the terrible fanfic with a defense of The Phantom Menace, perhaps that best explains it. That, like, essentially my new continuity is me doing to my fiction what The Force Awakens did to Star Wars in the sense of like, okay, we need to begin again because we fucked up bad and we upset a lot of people. So what the fuck can we do differently? What the fuck did we do right that we can do better at? And how do we go forward from there? Um, and yeah, it's still the fucking same thing. Um, but I mean, there are kind of problems inherent to the show in my fiction, because kind of the entire fucking reason I'm writing this fiction is because autistic 13-year-old guy with Kalman syndrome likes submissive women. I'm gonna write about submissive women, right? But like submissive women do exist in reality. So I feel like writing submissive women doesn't have to be evil in and of itself, right? So long as you've also got women who are maybe not submissive, or who, if they are submissive, they're still badass main characters. And like that, you can have women who, yeah, maybe they're not the fighters, but they are the wise people. They are the trickster figures, the mentors, you know, the people who, alright, they're not gonna, you know, get down there with a fucking laser blaster or magic spells, but they are gonna be able to say, hey, you're gonna go into hell, maybe you should learn some things first. Yeah, I I feel like my reboot for my fiction has done a lot of good things. And I mean, it's necessarily flawed because essentially it is, how the fuck do I introduce a new continuity? How the fuck do I introduce people to the Farshanook? How do I introduce these things? And then to a certain extent, this entire first book is going to be, this is the Farshanook, this is the multiverse, but also these are the characters, this is the new world, this is how this world works. Because things are the same, but they're different, you know. There is America, there is Britain, there is England, but they're not quite the same. There is a human race, but it's not our human race. It's called something else. It's the Blaguri. And yeah, like I feel like having that extra separation of like, at no point does anybody say they are English, that they are American, that they're human. That I feel like that reminds people, hey, not reality. Yeah, there are nods and winks every now and again. You know, the fact that essentially I do have a trans woman character who is who once had an empire, who is, you know, something KB in terms of, you know, middle name, last name, but she's a fucking badass half elf, you know, who's very much a distinct fictional character, you know. I mean, Laura K. Buzz is an amazing woman, but I somehow doubt that she actually has magical elven powers. You know, I mean, I'm not wishing to, you know, out her as, you know, as half elf, or criticize that she should be outing anything. Like you want to be an immortal walking among humanity, go ahead. I mean, you know, all due respect to Keanu Reeves too, you know. And I hope people realize that I am playfully kidding about these things, you know, like yeah, you know, people are people. they are not elves and immortals and stuff like that. But equally, if you are elves and immortals and you're just like, fucking humans, hell no, we're not going after you guys, then, you know, fair enough, right? Um, but when it comes to the fiction, this is an entirely different world. Like, this is a world that, like, instead of it being the Earth, this is the Mundus Turpis. This is the worldfish. This essentially is a gigantic world sitting on the back of a gigantic shark swimming through space that goes to its breeding grounds every year. Right? And essentially, like, summer is when the sharks go to breed. Is when the world fish goes to breed, and then winter is when they go back into deep space, um, so that they can. Well, I mean, again, like elements of lore are being put out here, you know, are being sort of brought together here. Um, So I'm not exactly sure why exactly he goes into deep space. Like, I'm still not exactly sure why exactly do things migrate back to Britain. And like yeah, you migrate in the winter to warmer places, but why the fuck would you ever migrate back to Britain? Because we're shite. Um, but yeah, like, it is a thing that's just like this is the flat world on the back of a shark that the gods have held together. It's just that instead of it being the Discworld gods, it's the pantheon of these elder gods who basically got trapped in this different part of in this different bubble universe and decided, well, fuck, we can't leave, we might as well stick around and do something about it. And this means that I get to have heaven and hell and explore theology and stuff without treading on toes, because I'm not actually sort of talking about, you know, Judaism or Christianity or anything like that. I'm talking about an entirely fictional set of religions in an entirely fictional multiverse, you know. But there we are. Yeah. Uh, I'm not dead. I'm writing. I think my writing's going better. Um, Although it's still not likely to be winning any awards for feminism just yet. Um, Although I do like to sort of try and have and sort of be like, yes, we're going to talk about feminism in this scene in which a woman is naked and literally belongs to a man, because that's the kind of stories I write. Because I'm going to hell. And arguably quite soon, because this flu is fucking terrible. But no, I kid. Not. I don't think I'm actually going to be killed by the flu. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Yeah. Yeah.